Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Soul Goals. I am Dawn, and today I have joining me I always say the word incomparable guest. I don't know why I say
I'll take it. I'll
amazing.
take
I say amazing all the time too. I
it.
have a really cool dude. I'm going to go that direction. Cool dude. I have a volleyball coach from Southeastern Louisiana University. He not only coaches indoor volleyball, he also coaches beach volleyball, which is a hot topic we're going to talk about today because that's how he and I got to know one another. Folks, this is Collin Wilson. Yay!
Hey, thanks, Don.
Welcome.
I appreciate it. It's fun getting to chat with you. Obviously, there's been many a year when we couldn't even have a discussion, and so now getting to chat with you a little bit about volleyball and soul goals. So I'm
Yes,
excited.
it's super fun. I remember I met you really met you the first time when my younger daughter was recruiting and went to one of your camps. And okay, so I remember sitting at lunch, right? It's a lunch break, and you were talking to all the parents, and I was just like, dude, like this guy needs to write a book. That was the first thing you were talking about, like where you came from. Like you came from Oregon, correct? That's where you
Yeah.
were born and raised?
Yep. That's where I grew up. Portland.
Okay.
Spent time all around the city, and I went to Jesuit high school in the southwest side of town, which was kind of the first move from maybe the city portion to more the suburbs. But yeah.
Okay. So you
And
were there and you ended up which I thought was fascinating. You ended up on the complete other side of the country.
Yeah, yeah, I chose to go to the University of South Carolina. I wanted to get away. Honestly, I
Okay.
spent 18 years of my life in Portland, and had I think at the around my sophomore year of high school, had a breaking off from my relationship with my mom, and
Okay.
so it was kind of like it was just me, my dad, and my stepmom, and it just kind of felt like I would like to go see something else.
Yeah.
Let's go experience something new. I knew I wanted the weather to be warm, uh,
Yes.
and so I made that criteria number one. I had recently discovered through I went to this thing in high school called I think it wasn't called Happy Camp, but I think that's what we called it.
Wait.
Um,
Happy camp?
Happy Camp, yeah. So
Okay.
my junior year English teacher, Miss Keller, she's like the best. I still try to keep in touch with her. Uh, I don't know, every couple months I'll shoot her a text and we'll talk
Oh,
about whatever books we're reading.
that's
Uh,
nice.
and she was the first one that kind of helped encourage us to read for fun, which
Mhm.
I think was really great because I did enjoy reading when I was younger, and then they made me read like Beowulf and Shakespeare, and it got a
Wow.
little mundane. And then she was like, "Hey, here's the deal. I'm supposed to tell you to read these books, but if you read something that you're passionate about and you read for 30 minutes a day, then we'll be on good terms." And so
Okay.
that was really a blessing. But anyway, so after that, she sent me to said, "Hey, I want to sign you up for this thing called Happy Camp."
Okay.
And all that was the science behind what makes people happy.
Oh
So
gosh.
and it was a bunch of high schoolers from the region. So I distinctly remember I still have two friends from there, Alex Highland and Mackenzie Crampton. I can't say we keep up a ton, but we kind of bonded. We were at different high schools, and I remember sitting in one of the rooms and talking about the allegory of the cave. Are you
Okay.
familiar at all with this?
Uh,
This is the
totally not familiar with that,
I
but
want to
don't
say
judge me.
no judgment. I want to say it's like Socrates or Aristotle or Plato, and he has this
Okay.
allegory of these people that live in a cave and they only experience the world through the shadows on the wall. And
Okay.
then one day, one of them walks out and realizes that everything in the shadow was not real, right? It was kind of
Mhm.
fake. It was a
Mhm.
play, and then right becomes kind of dissatisfied with not knowing the truth. But the people within the cave are happy, right? And so it's the idea that is ignorance bliss, for lack
Yeah.
of a better term,
Yeah.
right? Being naive is
Happy
better.
with what you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so, I distinctly remember that, but one of the things I kind of found out there was I'd been pretty shy in high school. Um,
Okay.
I hadn't really, uh, I hadn't really gone out and, like, put myself out there on a lot of things, and I realized through Happy Camp, I was like, "Oh, I find a lot of joy from things that put me out there. I find a lot of joy from playing sports. I found a lot of joy in, being in theater. I had really liked theater when I was younger, and then
What?
had kinda, like, stepped away from it.
Ah,
I play guitar, and I had loved, like, playing music, and But I never did it in front of people. And the few times I did, it was super fun, right? It was like one of my favorite experiences.
Yeah.
And so I knew I wanted a big school where I had lots of opportunities to put myself out there.
Mhm.
The joke I always told was, if I go to a school of 40,000 people and I say something dumb to one of them, that gives me 39,999 other opportunities. And so through all those things, I also wanted to work in baseball. So warm
Okay.
weather, big school, good baseball program. At the time, South Carolina checked all those boxes. And
For
so
sure. Did you
uh,
work in baseball when you went there?
I did sort of. So actually, that's how I got into beach volleyball.
Okay, that
Was
was gonna be my next like, somebody from Portland, Oregon
yeah,
is like, "Yeah, beach volleyball, that's what I'm gonna do, man. That's my living."
yeah. I gotten
Oh,
lucky. We had a pretty good volleyball program at Jesuit where I went to
okay.
high school, and I'd gotten to know our setter Nicole Peterson. She's actually very funny moment. She now coaches at Grand Canyon University
Okay.
on the indoor side, and her and I were talking at a recruiting event over the summer. She goes, "Were you into volleyball in high school?" And I was like, "Not particularly." I definitely had been around and I'd been to a lot of matches because we tried to go when they were in the finals and the playoffs and that kind of deal.
Yeah.
Uh, but anyway, so I'd gone out to school, and because I lived on the West Coast, I couldn't really afford to come out for orientation, which is
Mhm,
usually
okay.
when you get to like schedule classes and that kind of deal. And they offered an orientation. I learned later it was essentially for kids that probably weren't going to get into school, but wound up getting into school.
Oh, whoa, whoa.
And they just let
Okay,
me sign up for it because I was far away. And
okay.
so the day before classes start, so if class starts August 15th, August 14th, I walk over to orientation, and I'm one of 6 people in my orientation group.
Oh my.
And so it was a women's basketball player, a men's basketball player, a girl on the equestrian team, and then 2 baseball players, and then myself.
Okay.
And I was like looking around, I was like, one of these things
It's not
I
like
like
the
the
other.
other. And
Okay.
so luckily I was a baseball fan, right? So
Yeah.
I wound up hanging out with the baseball guys, and one of them is my best friend. His name's
Oh.
Joey Pollock. He coaches at Maryville University. He coaches baseball, so he's stuck in his sport
Okay.
at Maryville University up in St. Louis. But
Yeah.
but anyway, through them, started hanging out, and then towards the end of my first semester, I asked the baseball team. I was like, "Hey, I would love to work in baseball. Could I
Mhm.
work with you guys?" And they said, "No." And I was like, "I'll do it for free." And they
Okay.
said, "No."
Still
I was like,
no.
"All right,
Right.
all right, cool,
I
cool,
guess
cool."
that's stopping there.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So that's a no. And so I was a little bummed out. Right, this
Okay.
is fall of my freshman year, maybe October, November ish. And I'm hanging out in the apartment with Joey Pollock, and then Jake Wright was the other guy in that class, and he wound up being a Shant, so that was kind of a fun little Coastal
Oh,
Carolina
fun. When
trip.
you were there?
No, we graduated around the
Oh,
same
so
time, so
he went and played there.
he went and played baseball there. He
Got
actually was 2 years after the national championship. I can't remember. Anyway,
okay.
that's a big digression right there.
We
Um,
just went totally down another road.
yeah,
All
yeah,
right.
I go in the wrong direction sometimes,
That's
but
okay.
anyway, I was asking them, I was like, "Hey, yeah," they said no. And they were like, "Dang, that sucks." And
Mhm.
but I was like, "Hey, I still wanna get involved. I wanna find something to do. So if anybody hears of anything, let me know." And there had been a couple of girls from the beach team were also hanging out with us that night. Hannah Edelman and Sarah Nacuzzi and Allie Denny were all in that room, and they were like, "You should ask our coaches if you can help out. They always need people."
Yeah.
And so I put on my nicest suit, which looking back is probably the most ironic thing I could have done. And I went into, I tried to figure out why there was a guy named Moritz.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And so I'm like, "Oh my gosh, am I really gonna?" And then the other guy's RJ Abella. I'm like, "Goodness,
Yeah.
what are the names involved with this program?"
Is
Uh,
this a prereq to be involved in beach volleyball?
yeah,
Yeah.
I need a weirder name.
Right. You're just very, 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 very basic.
Yeah, Collin Wilson was not going to cut it for the. Luckily, Luke Higgs was the volunteer, and I think that
Okay.
was about as. And Joe Kepler was our SID, so I think that was about as close to normal as we were going to get with names.
Yes.
But yeah, I asked Moritz, "Hey, do you mind if I help out?" And he was like, "Yeah, that'd be great." And
Okay.
so, sure enough, January comes around, spring semester. I show up. First day, I'm in a polo and khakis to beach
Oh no.
practice. It was like 75 degrees. So I sweat through that pretty
So
quick.
so hold on for a second, because if people that are listening don't know what beach volleyball really is,
Yeah.
like, it's not polos and khakis on the sidelines like indoor would be,
Yeah. I guess the best reference point is so Moritz, name alone, right? Great indicator of beach volleyball.
right?
But he has a calf tattoo of a dolphin. That is, yeah, yeah. So it's like fully visible. He wears shorts every day to work, right? I mean, it's board
Okay.
shorts and flip flops,
Yeah.
um, and that's the vibe, right? That's
Yeah.
the environment that you're in is
Yeah.
guys with calf tattoos and things along those lines. So yeah, so I was not dressed properly for our opening practice, but
That's alright.
shagged some balls. Had a great time. Did it throughout the semester. Easter came along. Obviously, being from the West Coast, you don't really go home for short breaks. Like I didn't
Yeah.
go home for Thanksgiving. I didn't go home for. I went home for Christmas and summer. Those were my two breaks.
Yeah.
Um, and I kind of just planned on hanging out in my dorm room.
Okay.
Nobody was going to be around because everybody else went home. It's Easter.
Yeah.
Um, and Moritz called me probably the night before and was like, "Here's the deal. My wife said you're not allowed to sit in your dorm room, and
Oh, how awesome.
yeah, so we'll see you at brunch." And
Oh,
so I went over to his house and I got to meet his wife and his kids and his mother and father-in-law and his brother and sister-in-law and
like the whole
um,
crew.
the whole crew was over for Easter, and so it was
Yeah.
great to hang out with them. Had a wonderful day, and then ironically enough, later in that semester, the baseball team called and said, "Hey, we heard from a couple of our guys that you'd be interested in working here."
What?
I was like, "Yeah, do you remember when I called you like 4 months ago?"
Yeah. Were you like, "Sorry."
Yeah, and so we chatted a little bit, and um, I'll never forget. There's a moment when something along the lines of, and it's been whatever 7 years, so I'll try not to quote anybody, but it was
Okay.
like, you'll never get the chance to compete for a national championship with that team, but you will with us, right? Gamecock baseball at the time had won a couple of natties in 2010 and 2011 and was
Right.
ranked, I don't know, fourth in the country or third in the country or something like that at the time. So
Yeah.
reasonable to assume that Gamecock baseball was going to be pretty legit.
Yeah.
Um, and Gamecock Beach was having a heck of a year. I mean, we'd beaten Grand Canyon. We were, I don't know, 12th or 15th in the country. So
It's
at the
big.
time,
Yeah.
they were only letting 8 into the tournament, right? That was
Okay.
back, you got 3 East, 3 West, and 2 at large. The great irony to that year was that baseball, they might have gone, but I think they snuck into a regional. They definitely didn't host a regional, and we were the 8 seed. So,
The
uh,
baseball?
no, the beach team was the
Beach
8
team
seed.
was. Oh, you
Yeah,
guys got
yeah.
in.
Yeah, yeah. So we got in. We were the last team in. Probably one of the craziest moments. We wound up losing to Tulane at the CCSA conference tournament.
Oh, man.
There was a moment at the hotel there in Lake Point, Georgia, um, where Moritz looked at the whole team and said, "All right, everybody, be grateful for your experience because this is probably the last time that this group will ever get to be together."
Oh, wow.
People cried. Like
Yeah.
nobody was really stoked on it. And
Yeah.
then he scheduled practice on Monday, and we were like, "Dude, why are we?" Everybody's
Why are
sitting
we
there going,
here?
"Are we really going to go to practice right now? Like, we're out. This is stupid."
Yeah.
And then held a selection show party. And at the first time, I think they streamed the selection show.
Okay.
And so the guy's on there and he's interviewing Anna Collier, who at the time was the head coach at Southern Cal. And he goes, "Anna, it'll be no surprise that you're 32-0.
Yeah.
Southern California Trojans will be the 1 seed in this year's NCAA tournament." And she starts
Mhm.
to talk or something. And he goes, "Yeah, and you'll be playing the 8 seeded South Carolina Gamecocks." And we all take a second. "Hey, that's us." And then explodes in the rooms.
Oh my gosh. Did
Um,
Moritz know?
no, no. So you don't find out until
Till then?
until then. Yeah. So the selection show is the first time anybody knows. I think RJ and Joe, our sports information guy, had been doing a lot of the mental gymnastics, the mental math, and going,
Yeah.
well,
There's a possibility. So
yeah, there
if
was like they were
someone
like this
thought,
is yeah, yeah, and so
"Ah, that's like
uh,
a Cinderella story."
yeah, it was. I think that might have been the year. Not to take anything away from that team, right? But that also might have been the year that FIU had some lineup shenanigans,
Okay.
and
Oh,
so
yeah.
we might have gotten a little bit of a favorable treatment if it was
Okay.
between us and them.
Okay.
Um,
But still, it was what it was, and
Yeah,
there you had that chance, you had that opportunity.
yeah. So we went to
Ah,
North Force. That was pretty epic. But yeah, that was probably between Easter breakfast with the Moritz family and then going to Gulf Shores. Those were probably the claws that sunk into my beach volleyball hangout.
and you're like, "This is what I'm doing. This is
Yeah.
where I wanna be."
Yeah, I don't think I still wanted to work in baseball. In fact, I pretty much held working in baseball for my entire college career.
Okay.
Um, but I think it was, hey, while I'm here, I really want to be a part of this program and these people, and I want to hang out with these folks. Right, this is really an enjoyable experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, it wasn't until I moved out to I lived in California in between my final year and the year I went to college for 3 years.
Mhm.
So I graduated in 2019. And so the summer of 2018, I lived out in California. Uh,
Right.
and I worked at Beverly Hills Sports Council, which is this baseball agency out there.
Okay.
Uh, and then while I was out there on the weekend, I would drive down to Huntington Beach from,
Mhm.
was living up in, um, oh gosh, what's the little town up there? Calabasas. I was living up in Calabasas.
Oh, you're driving to Huntington Beach, like, every day?
No,
Or
just
on
on
the
Saturdays
weekends,
and
you said?
Sundays,
Yeah.
every weekends. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because the only lady that would because I wanted to stay in beach volleyball. I was like, hey, this is really fun. I'm living out in a place that has a ton of beach volleyball.
Yeah.
Let me get some more experience. Let me see a little bit more about this.
Yeah.
And so I emailed probably like every club from Malibu all the way down to Dana Point. If I'm being
Mhm.
honest. And Valinda Roche of Sand Soul Beach Volleyball Club was the
No
only
way.
lady that responded to my email. And she
I
let me come down and coach for free. So yeah,
Okay, so the Valinda story, I my girls and I were out in California one summer, and this is before my older one recruited and went off to play, and I was like, "Yo, let's find some place to drop in." And somebody suggested, and was it Soul Sand or Sand Soul?
Sand Soul.
Sand
Yeah,
Soul. Suggested, they said, "Oh, it's Valinda, she's awesome." Yeah, she I mean, give her a shout. And it was the best experience.
yeah,
Like, I felt like I went to church, and I was just sitting there watching. She
yeah,
was one of the best people for my kids at that moment where they were, and, I'll hear about her.
yeah.
Did you talk to her yet?
I would say Belinda and I will run into each other inevitably at random moments throughout the year. Um, it's usually somewhere down in Huntington, right? Her son Blaze is a big surfer, so
Oh,
if I find my way at a surf competition during the summertime, usually I'll find Valinda rocking around somewhere.
yeah,
Uh, but she tends to be that person for people, right? So
yeah,
Sandsoul's never really gotten big. The faith aspect probably scares a lot of people off.
yeah, I
Um,
understand. Yeah,
but I will, and there are people that have tons of opinions about Valinda. She's a character to say the
yeah.
least, and
But I
but I
think if
will,
you can look past that part of it and see the person underneath that, it's really it's great. You know,
is
she's
yeah,
such a giving, she's refreshing. I thought she was very refreshing, but that was just
yeah.
me.
No, I think giving is probably the word I was sort of clamoring for. There was like
Yeah.
she didn't have to give me a shot.
Yeah.
She sure as heck didn't have to give me $20 every once in a while as a thank you. Uh,
Yeah.
she gave me an opportunity and was kind about it and never said anything along the lines of like, "Oh, why would you want to be here?" or "What's wrong with you?" or
Ah,
she just was that person, and she was that person for a lot of kids that I know, and
yes.
she's been that person for a lot of young professionals and people in Huntington Beach, and so
Mhm.
all credit in the world to her for being a genuine human being, and she's never going to forfeit herself for you or what you need. So
Yes. That's
really,
a rare thing in across any sport or across any profession actually at this point. In
yeah,
this day
I
and age,
mean,
I have found anyway, but
who
yeah.
doesn't want to be
So
liked, of course. But yeah.
you worked for her. So you were working and you said Beverly Hills, the sports council
Yeah, yeah. So it was a
during the
baseball
week.
agency in Santa Monica. Yeah, and so I do that, I don't know, 60, 70 hours a week. Uh, and then sometimes I would bike down to the Santa Monica Pier and play on the challenge courts down there. So
Okay.
if you ever go to the Santa Monica Pier and you look on the south side of the pier, kind of like down past the Ferris wheel,
Yeah.
there's 4 little challenge courts, uh, almost Strand side next to Barney's Beanery or whatever the little bar is down there.
Okay.
And every night the lights turn on and you can play games until probably 11 o'clock at night, uh,
Really?
with random people. Yeah. And some of the games are better than others. They're not all like crazy competitive. It's not like you're
Uh-huh.
going to run down there and accidentally play, Triborn and Came Shell.
Right.
Um, but it is also where a lot of like pros used to cut their teeth.
Mhm.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar used to play pickup games down there all the time.
I
So
didn't know that. He played
yeah,
beach volleyball?
yeah, on the weekends when he was a Laker. Back when he was a Laker, he would pop out to the sand.
Dude, that's
Um,
awesome.
yeah, I mean
Okay.
Triple J, Jenny Jordan Johnson would play
Uh-huh.
down there with her and Annette would train in Santa Monica, and
Uh-huh.
a lot of UCLA kids would go down there and they would get what is it, the I think corn dogs and then like lemonades at the little stand that was down there. So it's got
Oh,
some cool history, but now it's just there's still a lot of homeless people that sleep on the staircases next to it. So it's not
yeah.
always the safest spot. Definitely don't bring a lot of belongings. Hide your
Right.
wallet somewhere. Like, yeah, keep as
Keep your
little with
stuff
you as you
to
can.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, like I
Have you
was always
gone
afraid.
back there recently or visited that area?
I don't think I've been to the challenge courts in Santa Monica since I do kind of when I moved there full time. So I moved there after college. When I
Okay.
started, I wanted to coach and be in beach volleyball. Um, and I really loathed Santa Monica. Like I would drive
Oh,
Uber a lot, and driving Uber in Santa Monica was probably the worst part of my experience because
really?
it'd take you like an hour to get out of Santa Monica,
Yeah. Yeah.
and the rides were never very long, so you never made a lot of money.
Right. So
And
wait,
then
you're working during the week. When are
yeah,
you and you're coaching,
yeah.
volunteer coaching on the weekends, and you're also an Uber driver.
The
When do you
Uber, I
sleep?
waited to drive Uber until I moved out there
Okay,
later.
but you were out there full time. Okay. But
Yeah,
like,
yeah. So I got lucky and I got to live with the Fulton family up in Calabasas for free during that summer. Uh,
oh,
so that was none of it would have been possible without them. They
oh,
really
that's
took care of
sweet.
me. They took me out to play with them in Malibu one weekend, and I cramped so bad that like I got out of the car and both legs locked up, and
Oh, no?
we couldn't get out of and so Chris, the dad, actually like helped me
No. He carried
stumble
you
into the
to
pool. No, he didn't carry me. He didn't
Okay.
carry me, but he did. I put an arm around him, and he kind of
Yeah,
walked me to the pool,
okay.
and I loosened up. Like they loosened up enough so I could move out of the pool, and then he helped me like stretch and get back to a functional human being.
Yes, yes.
So
That's a good person.
yeah, they were the best family. I mean, all of them to this day. I think Quinn right now is going to be she's a lawyer or in law school at Georgetown
Okay.
and is going to be doing something for people who don't have much
Yeah. So
to
they're very giving as well. You've
yeah,
landed in some really, really great spots, but I also would say that, yeah, I mean, your energy and what you put out there too is that you're not a taker. I feel like just talking to you, just getting to know you through the beach volleyball that I've known you through, you're not you're not a flashy person. You're not out there like, "Woo, look at me, look what I'm doing." Yeah, da 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 da. And I think that's really, I really think that's a trait that people gravitate towards because it's, again, I'll use the word refreshing because there are so many people in the world that are not that way. So it's, yeah, it's a refreshing thing. People, yeah, people want to be around good people. It's good.
yeah. I hope I'm considered one of those. I never know. And as anything in this world, right? I'm sure there are plenty of people that will say that I am a taker and don't like me, and that's okay. I've tried to learn Um, I do take things pretty hard, right? I think that's part
Okay.
of just being whatever, maybe being the shy kid, right? I used to take things pretty personally.
Sure.
And I would say I still do, but I'm trying to filter it out and be okay with not being perfect.
Yeah.
I've made plenty of mistakes. In fact, that's kind of the first, I guess, not the first piece, but as far as like coaching a team, right?
Mhm.
It's you can't be vulnerable with your team. They're never going to be vulnerable with you.
Yeah.
If you can't admit mistakes, they're not going to be comfortable being making mistakes. And ironically enough, earlier today, I made a mistake and I had
Oh,
to apologize to one of our girls. Uh,
okay.
I had screwed up and not put something on the calendar, on the team calendar,
Okay.
and she had made plans, and then I had to come in there and be like, by the
Yeah.
way, I screwed up, right? And
Yeah.
that I probably, I mean, I'm still beating myself up a little bit about it, but it took about 2.5 hours for me to like unclench my stomach and be like,
Yeah.
okay, you've made the mistake. I've
Yeah.
spent a little bit of time trying to figure out, okay, can I fix this, right? How can I like come
Yeah.
up with a new strategy? And unfortunately, it was one of those where maybe I could have come up with a slightly new strategy, but none of them would have been very good, and it ultimately would have been a detriment to the rest of the program. And so
Yeah.
had to own that mistake, and I'll just keep working to make up for it later.
Yeah,
Uh,
well, owning your mistakes is obviously it's life, and that's what what we hope to evolve and to be able to do, and yeah, put our ego and our pride to the side when we have to do that. So it sounds like you did some good stuff. You did some good personal work today.
I hope. I hope.
That's
As
good.
many people, if any of my friends listen to this, they will tell you that I don't like being wrong, and so
Oh,
making mistake. Yeah, I'll
okay.
argue my way into being right, even if it probably was sort of wrong. Steve
Oh,
Grotowski might be
funny.
the king of being able to tell you this. The head coach down at FAU, he'll call me. He'll be like, "This is why I like talking to you, Colin, because you'll you'll really work a point all the way 360 around until you find a
All
way
the
to
way around, yeah.
find a way to be
Where do you
right."
think that came from? I got like, I
Yeah,
doggone it. This is where I'm at. This is what it is. I'm telling you, this is it.
yeah. I don't know if I don't see. I don't know if I'm like I want to be right that way, or
Okay.
if when I'm wrong, I'll find a way to make it right. If that makes
Okay.
sense.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
like, I'll use the old sky example, right? So if if you were to say the sky is blue, and I go, no, it's green,
Yeah.
right? And then we would have this back and forth, and I would come up with some way to tell you that it's actually there's chlorophyll in the ozone that's going to make it green. So yes, maybe it reflects blue, but it really is green.
But
And I'm
truly.
gonna like I'm
Okay.
gonna work my way into that.
Okay.
You know, or I'm gonna work my way into where it's kind of right, but maybe not totally right. But
Okay.
you're also not totally right. Um,
Well,
that's my fatal
I
flaw.
think I think that's kind of humanity. I think most people can say, and if they're being honest, they're gonna tell you that they've done that in the past. I've done that in the past. You can probably talk to either one of my kids and they'll be like, they could see right through me. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. But I also think it makes you kind of a critical thinker. So you could take that trait and go, how can I use it for good? You know?
Yeah, I definitely did get that commentary a lot when I was younger, right? Like, "Oh, this would make you a really good lawyer."
Oh, right.
I definitely don't love it as much now. Um,
Yeah.
I don't I would rather be the, like, think then speak kind of character type.
Okay.
I suppose that there's some value to being able to see it from many a perspective, even if the one perspective is probably wrong. There's probably
Yeah.
some value in there, but looking back, I wish it wouldn't have been as encouraged as maybe it was when I was younger.
Okay. All
But
right.
that's life, right? Don't It's like you got straight hair, you always want curly hair. You got curly hair, you always want straight hair, right?
Absolutely. Grass is usually greener on the other side, or so we make that up in our head and that's our perspective. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that people battle with that through their whole life, depending on whatever it is, whatever situation that they're in, especially when it's a situation that kind of brings up some emotion, some like fear or like clenching your stomach for a while. Yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
because you don't want to hurt people. Like that's not yeah. I don't know very many people that have that intention that where I'm going maliciously in to hurt somebody. So yeah. Then you
Yeah,
feel like you gotta let yourself off the hook at a certain point and go, okay, I did the best that I could. And then you backed up and you rebooted, and there you go. There's
Yeah.
Dawn's TED Talk for the day. Thank you very much. Okay.
No, it's where hindsight and nostalgia come in, right? Like,
Yes.
oh, well, I would have done it that way. I used to have this talk with Tyler Hildebrand, who
Mhm.
was the USA coach and is now at Long Beach State on the indoor side. Right. He would always say, a player will hit a high line that'll get dug, right? And she'll say something along the lines of, "Oh, I should have come in and hit a cut shot," right? And he would always say, "Well, we don't know that because if we came in and did this, then that might not have worked."
Right.
Right. Or, oh, I should have gone and, I should have been closer to the middle so I could dig the high line. Well, if you're
Mhm.
closer to the middle to dig the high line, they probably don't hit it because you're there.
Yeah.
And so it's like, you can't play this, oh, if I had done that game, right? You can
Yeah.
take the information, you can try to utilize it to advance what you want to do next. But this whole, oh, I should have dug that ball mentality doesn't work.
Yes.
It's not sound logic. It's like, I don't know, you ever have a candy or a restaurant that you like, that you like to eat from when you were a
Mhm.
child, right? And
Mhm.
you're
Yeah.
always like, "Oh, that place had the best burgers." And then you go there and you're like, "This place was pretty average."
Yeah.
And it's nostalgia, right? It's like what you built up in your head from
Yes.
years and years ago is so much better than probably what it
Abs
actually is.
Absolutely. That whole should thing is interesting because I was told at one point, they called it the should monster. Like, stop pulling out the should monster. Like, that it doesn't change anything that's done. Like, you just have to be okay with the decisions you make, even if it's in the split second. Yeah. So I imagine being a volleyball coach. Now, this is interesting too, because you're now, when you were in California, tell me how you landed back on the East Coast. So I don't want to get ahead of myself here, but you were in California
Yeah.
working, then you decided to come back east because you had an opportunity to coach.
Decided would be an interesting way of putting it.
Oh, okay.
There's some steps in
Okay.
the middle, right? So I worked in California. I was doing a lot of really great stuff. I'll never forget. So I moved out there in May of 2019.
Okay.
And that next March was the first March that I was able to pay all my bills by coaching volleyball. I was
Okay.
getting, I was getting a small amount of money from USA Beach for helping out our senior national team. I was getting about, I think Steino had moved me up to $1,000 at LA Beach, $1,000 a month.
Let's go.
Pretty awesome.
Okay.
And then there was something else that I'd done that I was always banking on maybe one or two private lessons, and it covered all my bills. It was like 2
Yeah.
grand a month.
Yeah.
Ooh, I'm making 24 grand a year. What a life.
It's
Everybody would always tell me, don't forget about taxes. I go, if I get taxed, I'm toast. Like there's
yeah,
not,
I'm done.
I'll be able to
I'm
pay that.
done.
I'm out.
Right?
I better get a refund for every dime. Uh,
Yes.
and so anyway, I had done all this, but as you may or may not know, right, March of 2020 was also when the world shut down. So
Yes. Yeah.
uh, I was getting ready to drive up to Northridge and get on a bus to Tucson. And Noel Rook, our head coach up there, gave me a call and said, "Hey, don't worry about coming up. Season's canceled." I was like,
Ah,
"Oh, cool."
yeah.
So I actually that the morning prior, I had gotten to work with one of our USA pairs, Sarah and Kelly, Sponsel Clays, now
You
Sponsel.
did? Oh my gosh.
And so I've been with them. I was with them about twice a week. Jordan
Oh,
Chang,
wow, Colin, that's huge.
yeah, they were super fun. I mean, Tyler, that was probably one of the most fun stories. I'll sidetrack back real quick, but
Yeah.
when I moved out there in March of 2019, yeah,
Mhm.
moved out May 20th, not March, May 20th. On May 21st, I drove down to Hermosa Beach. I parked my car. I started walking along the Strand. I parked at the pier and walked north. This is important details here.
Okay,
I
okay.
walked north. The pier is about 11th Street in Hermosa,
Okay.
and I got to 16th Street, which if you've ever been there, that's all the fun colored poles.
Yes.
And I saw these two bearded gentlemen finishing up practice, and I swung by and I said, "Hey guys, introduced myself. My name's Colin. I'm getting ready to coach at Cal State Northridge. I would really love to get involved with pros and just see how you guys do things. I want to learn more. I want to see what's happening, and I'll shag balls for free. I'll be an arm. I'll do whatever you need me to do for free."
Yeah.
and you have to let me listen to your conversations.
Okay. Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, man, we'll see you tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. And I was like,
Okay.
done. And I happened to meet on 16th Street, right? There's these two patios that you'll see. One is a longer one that
Mhm.
belongs to a guy named Ed Keller. He is the encyclopedia of beach volleyball.
Oh,
In his head, if you need to know anything about any tournament ever, he can tell you.
okay.
He's great. He's so smart. And then next to him is a smaller patio with a great little like fire, one of those like fake fireplaces with it's propane,
Yeah.
and that belongs to the Delgados. And Greg and Lori are the reason beach volleyball is so cool.
Oh
In
my
fact,
gosh.
if you go in their house, you'll find the 2020 Porsche Cup Championship trophy. I'm sitting in there because Nick and Phil took it home, and Nick immediately walked down to 16th Street and handed it to Greg Delgado and said, "This doesn't happen without you, not just for
Oh,
himself, but for the whole sport."
wow. Oh,
And
that's a
so
great story.
that first day, they gave me a cup of coffee and introduced themselves and told
Mhm.
me about their son Greg, who had played at Stanford and was now doing something really smart because that's what people who go to
Of
Stanford do.
course. Yeah.
And they're so sweet, right? And so I'm all jazzed. I'm excited. I go back to my dingy little house with a room that the whole place didn't have a roof on it. Right, had a tarp. Have
Where you were staying?
Yeah, the place I lived. I was paying about $750 a month to live in a place that didn't
Didn't have
have
a
a
roof.
solid roof over the top.
Oh, okay.
Um, and so I got that a little settled in. And by settled in, I mean I used my boxes as furniture. I set up what box was going to be my clothes pile, what box was going to be my hamper, and then what box was going to be my little TV stand. Um,
Wow.
and I was sleeping on a futon, so I bought this like couch futon thing.
Yeah.
And so I'd gotten a set of sheets to set up over that and some pillows, and so I was all set. I was ready to go.
Yeah.
Get a good night's rest. Same day I also went and got a job at a bar on the pier. So I had
Okay.
like, so to me, I'm like, this is the greatest day ever, right? I get to work with a pro team, the McKibben brothers, who are all over YouTube.
Right.
Yeah,
When you said 2 bearded guys, I was like, I know exactly who you're talking about. Yeah.
yeah. So
Coolest
Madison and
dudes.
Riley are two of the coolest dudes. I still try to keep up with Madison. Obviously, life's been hectic for both of us, but
Mhm.
anytime I get to be to an AVP event, I'll try to catch up with Maddie for a couple minutes.
Yes.
Uh, so I get my good night's rest. I go
Mhm.
out there, and I'm out there at 7:45 because why would I
Mhm.
be late to my first day? And and Madison or Riley rolls up on his longboard at like 7:58. He goes,
Uh,
"Hey man, we're canceling practice. It's too cold." And keep in mind, Don, it's probably 58 degrees. Like I in a year earlier, we did a tournament at South Carolina that was in snow. So
Yeah. You're like,
I've been in
"What?"
worse. Yeah, yeah. And so it's
Okay.
too cold. And I'm like, well, this sucks. This is not what
Yeah.
the first day was going to be. So I walk a little bit further up the strand. So I'm going north still. And I get to 21st Street, which you'll know 21st Street by the California Republic flag that's up there. And it's right before the bathrooms if you're walking
Right.
north. So there's a small set of bathrooms there.
Mhm.
And I see this really tall lady running around a volleyball court. I'm like, she's probably a professional beach volleyball player.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll give this a go. I'll give the same success on day one. Why not try to go two for
Let's
two?
go again.
This is
Yeah.
going to be great. So I start to walk out there, and her partner is stretching on the sand next to the court. And before I get too far, I go, "Oh my god, that's Alex Kleiman and April Ross."
Oh
And I'm
my
like, starting to
gosh.
freak out a little bit. I'm like, shoot, do I cower? Do I
What do
chicken
I
out?
do?
Do I bail? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right.
Those were two guys from YouTube. This is a pair that
This is a
is
much different
yeah,
situation for
yeah.
sure.
And so I got bailed out a little bit because I think right as I was getting ready to chicken out and run away, Jen Kessie, their coach at the time, Olympic silver medalist, uh, looks like a pack mule, right? She's carrying like a bag of balls, a bench, a whiteboard. She's got like 9 things over her shoulders.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, can I help you carry that? And she goes, yeah, 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 and gives me the bag of balls, and I carry it over. And I introduced myself to her. Uh,
Yes.
and so I go, hey, coaching it, trying to coach it in Cal State Northridge, and I just want to learn more.
Yeah.
You mind if I shag balls for you guys? She goes, I don't have to shag balls. This sounds great.
Yeah. You're
And
like, I'm
introduces
all over
me,
it.
yeah,
Okay.
introduces me to April and Alex. And a little bit later in their practice, Tyler Hildebrand rolls up. He's at the time the coach for USA Beach, and Um, I'll never forget, right? I'm like, "Hey, I'm gonna shag balls," and she goes, "Yeah, yeah." She goes, "Hey, can you hit and serve?" And I was like,
Um, ye
you know, too scared to say no. So I'm like,
Okay,
"Yeah, sure, let's do
that
it."
was gonna be my question, like, what do you say to those,
Um,
like, I mean,
yeah, it was
yes, I
pretty
do.
nerve-wracking, very nerve-wracking, and so I say yes,
Uh-huh.
and, she goes, "Alright, great. I need you to hit these balls to, hit 2 to April and then 2 to Alex, 2 to April, 2 to Alex." And it probably wasn't windy in my head, right? This is like history, nostalgia really getting the best of me. I feel
Okay.
like there was a nice breeze,
Okay,
and
yeah,
it was
okay.
also my first time picking up a Mikasa beach volleyball. So if you don't know, right, there's the AVP, the Wilson AVP, and that's usually a heavier ball.
Yeah,
It's a little stickier. That's why you see more AVP players topspin serve. The Mikasa is much lighter. It's got the paneling is much wider, so it actually winds up popping out a little bit more. And
okay.
there's more things to catch wind, and so you'll see a lot of international players float serve because they can't hit it as hard. If you hit it too hard, it's going to float way out of
Yeah.
bounds. And so, never hit a Mikasa ball before in my life. I pick it up and I go, "Oh gosh, this
Uh,
is very scary." And I hit a perfect round. I hit
oh,
2 balls to April, 2 balls to Alex, 2 balls to April, 2 balls, and I didn't miss by a huge margin. Luckily,
okay.
they're Olympic level athletes, so
Yeah,
my margin for error was a little bit bigger. I could miss by a foot and still be in the range.
yeah. Dude, were you not just shaking when you first
It's the most scared I've ever been probably on a
I
volley.
mean,
I've
like,
never been more afraid.
I'm slightly sweating here as you're telling me the story, like, for you, like, "Whoa." But that's
Yeah.
exciting. Okay, so from that point
Yeah, they said, "Hey, do you wanna come back again tomorrow?" And I said, "By all means, I would love to come back again tomorrow." And,
yes.
I wound up coming back, not every day because whenever they were internationally, I was at home. Obviously, I didn't fly with the team or anything crazy.
Yeah.
But when they were in the States, I would spend 2 days a week with April and Alex, 2 days a week with Kelly and Sarah, at least 1 day with Emily Stockman and Kelly Larson, um, or Kelly Kalinsky, and
Yes, yeah.
then, um, we do a couple days with Cam Schalk and Chase Buttinger, a couple days with Trevor Crabb and Tri Bourne when they were split blocking together, and then 1 or 2 days with Taylor and Jake.
Man.
And so would kind of float between all those practices with Tyler pretty much every day of the week. I would drive up to Northridge and coach in the fall, and I would coach club for Steino at LA Beach in the evenings.
Yeah.
And life was good. And so
Yeah.
in the morning of whatever day COVID wound up hitting,
Oh,
uh,
yeah.
I was with Tina and Anastasia of Latvia. Tina Gradino, obviously famous ones blocker from USC,
Yes.
um, and Sarah and Kelly. And I had said, "Hey, if anybody needs anything tomorrow, let me know. I'll be around." Right? There hadn't been anything scheduled, and so Tina and I are talking, and she goes, "Yeah, it'd actually be great. Anastasia and I have a little practice plan. Would you mind putting us through it?" And I said,
Mhm.
"By all means." And so go out the next morning. I'm like, "Hey, my whole season just got canceled. So if you guys want to do this again, you
Yeah,
know,
I'm here.
I'm here. Let me know. I'm bored."
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, at the time, right, this one, it's like 2 weeks to flatten the curve thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
um, and so planning on doing that. We're like, "Hey, let's go out at 9 since none of us have anything to do later in the day." They text me at like 10:30 at night. And they're like, "Hey, um, sounds like the borders are going to close. So we're going to fly home to Latvia."
Wow.
I said, "All right, that sounds like a bit of an overreaction, but
Yeah.
whatever works."
But
They
I okay. Yeah.
they fly home, borders closed. I was like, "Oh, they were right."
Yeah. That whole time was just crazy.
Yeah, yeah. So that
Gosh.
happens. I am, of course, now unemployed, um,
Mhm.
and I wound up getting a job at Domino's delivering pizzas in Redondo
Wow.
Beach. Um,
Wow.
got not thrilled with that. Also found out that based on the unemployment and then the bonus check that California was cutting, that I would be making $3,000 or $3,500 a month by not working,
Oh,
which at
wow.
the time was almost twice as much as I'd ever made in a month. So
Mm.
I ceased my job at Domino's. Uh,
Yeah.
I took that unemployment check. My dad was pretty sick at the time, so I actually moved up to Oregon.
Okay.
I helped him with, he's a general contractor. So at the time during COVID, he was like fixing up rental units. And so
Uh-huh.
people would move out and inevitably people would break stuff.
Right.
And so I'd go in there and I'd change light bulbs, smoke detectors, put doors back on hinges if they had taken them off,
Yeah.
change out blinds, all that kind of stuff. And I would just do it for him because he wasn't really physically able to do much. A lot of
Mhm.
garbage disposals. The joke was we would do a lot of garbage disposals.
Okay.
So I did that. I tried to get in at Oregon. The University of Oregon was about 2 hours from where I grew up.
Mhm.
So I didn't want to give up on my dream just yet.
Yeah.
So I took a volunteer job down there during COVID. Also found a bar near campus that would hire me, Rennie's Landing.
Okay.
Still the best lunch or dinner you can get in Eugene. So
What's it called?
Rennie's Landing. It's right.
Rennie's Landing.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's so great. I mean, I can't actually get over how amazing those people were, right? Another group of people that just didn't have to help me out,
Yeah.
had literally no reason to, right? It's COVID. They can barely have people in the restaurant anyway.
Right.
And they took a flyer on me because of my years of bar experience,
Okay.
um, down in California.
Uh-huh.
And so I got that job. I also went over to the local 7-Eleven and they needed somebody to work the graveyard shift. So I received employment there. And then the guy that I moved in with worked at U-Haul. He's actually, I just talked to him today because it was his birthday the other day, and he's now running that U-Haul facility that I worked at.
Okay.
And so I got those 3 jobs plus coaching.
Yes.
And so I was working pretty much nonstop. So I'd go to U-Haul from about 7 till right around 1 p.m. And then I would, no, 2 p.m. because then I would come back down to campus and I would coach from 3 to 5.
Mhm.
I would work 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. at 7-Eleven. I'd do that 4 days a week. And then I'd work U-Haul on Friday. And then after practice on Friday, I would work at the bar. And I would do that Friday and Saturday. We'd have morning practice on Saturday. So, 8 to 11 or whatever. And then go bartend from, I don't know, 5 p.m. till 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning,
When
whatever
were
the
you
ruling was. Maybe it was
sleeping?
midnight. I was sleeping on Sundays. So Sunday was my sleep day.
Oh,
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah. And it
And
was great.
like all of this for you because of a dream that you really wanted to do and the desire to coach beach volleyball.
Yeah. I don't know where it came from. And I'm still pretty surprised.
Yeah.
The, the real moment, the real like breaking point, right, was January 12th, 2021.
Mhm.
Was I woke up that morning after working an 18-hour day the day before, or 16-hour day, or whatever the heck I was working at the time.
Yeah.
I woke up on very little sleep. I made my pot of coffee. I took my shower. I got my U-Haul uniform on. And I went down to my car, and my back window had been busted in for the 3rd time in 6 months.
Oh.
So, and every time, right, the first time, I'll admit, there was stuff in the car, right? They got away with a bunch of stuff.
You're one of those people you were one of those people that left things there.
Yeah, I left things in the car. After
Okay.
the first time you smash my window open, I'm not leaving anything in my car.
Right.
By the way, this whole time it's in a locked parking garage
Okay.
underneath my apartment. So,
Okay.
um,
So
you
this
know,
is some kind of sign that this is happening here.
yeah, Eugene's just it's gone downhill pretty quick. Unfortunately,
Mhm.
a pretty rough homeless population that's
Mm, mhm.
pretty aggressive right now.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so 3rd time, and each time it cost me $200 to get the window
Yeah.
replaced. And
Yeah.
if you can tell by how much I'm working, I don't have a ton of disposable income
Right.
to just drop on windows every other month. And so I called my dad that morning at like 6:45 a.m. crying, going, "I'm
Mm.
out. I can't do it anymore. I quit. I'm moving
Yeah.
home. Figure out another job.
Yeah.
Um, I'll find a new career." And so I pull myself together. I tape a trash bag over my now open window in the middle of winter in Oregon. So it's
Wow.
38 degrees.
Yeah.
Drive my happy butt to U-Haul. Um, and I work at U-Haul and I'm probably, I don't know, halfway into the morning, maybe 10 a.m. And I get a text from Steve Loswick at Coastal Carolina. And he goes,
Okay.
"Hey man, hope things are well. I have an assistant job opening and I was curious if you'd be interested in applying. And
Oh,
so,
okay, I just got chills. Dude, that's like
yeah,
yeah.
that was a God moment, right? He looked at me and he said, "All right, here's a break," right? Because
Yeah, well, like,
I
I
was so
think sometimes you gotta hit those points where it's just like, I have nothing else. You were pushing so hard, and you just had like a surrender point had to happen.
yeah, yeah. So I got a break. I got a
Yeah.
break, and it was for the director of operations on the indoor side, and then the assistant beach coach.
Mhm.
And I called him, and um, I talked to Steve, and I'll never forget the phone call was him probably spending 15 minutes trying to tell me why I shouldn't take the job,
Well, you should not take it?
why I should not take the job.
Okay.
Mhm. So he probably spent 15 minutes on telling me that, and then I
Yeah.
talked to the senior women's administrator, Carrie Rosick, great, awesome lady there at Coastal, and I talked to her, and she's like, "All right, well, I don't see any red flags, Steve. If you want to hire the guy, go for it."
Okay.
And so he calls me that night when I'm bartending. Right, I've got another shift. I still am working. I still have jobs. Right,
Yes,
and he
yeah.
calls me that night, and he goes, uh, "Hey, it's yours if you want it." And I said, "Yeah, I'm in." And he goes, "Do you want to talk it over with your family? Like, do you want to? Are you sure that you want this job?" And I was like, "Yes." He goes, "I just want to remind you that it's a lot of work and you're not going to get paid very much." And I was like, "No, no, no. I want to
Yeah.
accept the job." He goes, "Are you? Listen. Do you like? You should talk it over with some people." Like, I once again,
Let me
Steve.
ask you again. Are you sure?
Yeah, out
And
of
then at
my.
that point, you're just wanting to tell him, "Don't if you only knew my last, like, 24, 48 hours." Yeah.
Oh, no, I told him. I told him. I
Oh,
go,
you did
"Hey,
tell him.
yeah, yeah." I go, "Here's the deal. Like, I've been waiting for this moment. I've been
Yeah.
doing this. I've been doing X, Y, and Z. Things have not been going well, and
Yeah.
this was the excuse I needed." And
Yeah.
so he lets me accept the job, and I think accepted the job. I immediately I'm still at my shift at the bar. I
Right?
let out this scream in the middle of the bar. Let's go! You know what I mean? Just this
Yes.
excitement. My manager comes running out, goes, "What the heck is going on?" I go,
Yeah.
"It's not my dream job." And he
Yeah.
goes, "Oh God, when do you leave?" And I go, "I'm gonna finish the shift. Don't
Oh,
worry.
you want me till tomorrow.
I'm not leaving right now."
Right. I'm good
Uh,
I'm gonna finish my work for you.
I'm gonna finish my shift. And
Yeah.
so I call one of my coworkers at 7-Eleven. I go, "Hey, any shot you want to cover me on Monday and Tuesday?" He goes, "Not really." I go, "Well, here's the deal. I'm gonna need you to because I'm
Yeah.
not
This is
coming
what's
in."
happening. Yeah.
And so I quit my job. I called U-Haul, or I went into U-Haul the next day, and I started working. I started my shift at U-Haul, and I watched my boss go out there for a smoke break. And I walk out and I go, "Hey, can I talk to you about something?" And she
Mm.
goes, "You better not be bleeping quitting on me." And
Yeah.
I go, "So, well, what happened was."
I'm not quitting per
Yeah, yeah.
se.
"Got my dream job." And she goes,
Yeah.
"I'm not happy, but that is a good reason to not
Yeah.
do this job."
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
and so
So,
leave
you
all my
drive
bags.
cross country
Yep, I
and you're
grab all
like,
my stuff and drive
"Ugh."
to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and
Yeah.
I slept on an air mattress for the first month, and yeah, had that experience. So,
Such a great experience, and that's where you and I initially met,
yep, yep.
and I will say, I mean, I think that you changed a lot of lives for positive just by being there, and I think
Oh,
probably a lot well, okay. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say, yeah, like, you're not everybody's cup of tea because not everybody's everybody's cup of tea,
yeah.
but, like, pat yourself on the back. You've done some good stuff. You've worked through a lot of garb, man. Like, you've
Yeah.
been places where a lot of people are not gonna go for their dream and
I'll
for
say
what they
I
wanted
got
to
pretty
do.
lucky. I had Moritz obviously is him and Kevin, his wife.
Uh-huh.
Without her and him, I probably don't do very well in college.
Oh,
I got a lot of encouragement from them, a lot of
yeah,
support from them. Without RJ, I probably write off this idea that I could coach beach volleyball, right? Because I
yeah,
kind of asked him, I was like, "Hey, is this a thing that ever happens?" And he goes, "It can be. It can
yeah,
be. It's a lot of work. You're going to get doubted a lot, but it can be."
yeah,
And so I always had him. I always had Moritz.
yeah.
I got lucky in that I called pretty much every college coach from South Carolina to Hawaii
Mhm.
and said, "Hi, I'm trying to find a job. Can you help
Mhm.
me?" I always joke that I got 3 calls back. So
Okay.
I got, Jeff Hall and Evan Silverstein at Hawaii gave me a call back, said, "Hey, we don't have
Okay.
a job for you, but we'll root for you and we'll help you with whatever you need."
Yeah.
Um, I got a call back from Marcio Sicoli at Pepperdine,
Right.
said, "Yes, whatever you need," and actually helped me get in with P1440 my first year in California.
Yes.
Also, put me in touch with Noah Rook, who ultimately gave me the biggest trust of faith by letting me be her volunteer for a year.
Yeah.
Um, and then actually the third one was Hector, Hector at TCU. And so I've
Yay.
always had quite a bit of respect for him answering the phone call.
Yeah. I
And
guess they wouldn't have to.
they didn't have to. In fact, and he didn't have a job for me, right? It's like
Yeah.
I'd asked him about being a GA, and I guess they had this gal named Mandy who, now his sister. He's like, "Yeah, I got her lined up to be a GA, so I'm not sure I can kick her
Yeah.
out for you." And I was like, that's
Fair
incredible.
enough.
Yeah, yeah, fair enough.
Fair enough. I
Uh,
got you.
and so,
So
yeah,
you are now I think this is interesting because now you are the head volleyball coach indoor as well as beach at Southeastern Louisiana?
I'm the first assistant on the indoor side. So I
Okay.
guess technically they gave me the associate head coach
Okay.
title. But Jeremy White runs our program, so he's the director of volleyball. He
Mhm.
started both indoor, or he didn't start indoor. He took over the indoor program and started the beach program here at Southeastern.
Got it. So
And
your responsibilities for indoor are
yeah, so I help out pretty much as possible. We're all in the office together. We all spend a lot of time. I'll help recruiting.
Mhm.
Allison Byler is our recruiting coordinator. So she's first year coach, or not first year coach, but she was the GA for 2 years at Morehead State in Kentucky,
Yeah.
and is now our recruiting coordinator and oversees blocking at our school. And then because of my uh, not part-time status, right, but like the fact that I'm split between two programs,
Mhm.
be recruiting when I can. I usually hang out in Texas most of the time just because there's a lot of beach there, so I can kind of double up and do both. And then also Texas is really close, and so
Yes.
it's a lot easier to manage two programs if you're not traveling to New York and Minnesota and Chicago and all these crazy places. And so
Yes.
and then ultimately, the main job is to take the beach responsibilities off of Jeremy's plate. So
Right.
he has been running the program for a few years, and he's got a 2 and a 5-year-old, Maggie and
Oh,
Carter.
yeah.
Um, and funny
Busy.
enough, being in season both semesters is not fun for that. And so,
No, it's hard. That's super hard. My husband is a football coach, and I remember when we had our kids, oh gosh, I think Kate was probably 6 months old at that time when he was going into that next season, and I was just like and Amanda was what, 3 or 3.5, and it was just like,
yeah,
my mind is blown right here. Like, you're not home. Right?
yeah,
Yeah, there's a lot going on. And then you're talking about him doing it's a year-round thing that
yeah.
he's doing, so,
So he's
um
gonna he's gonna stay with the indoor program, but I'll take beach off his hands.
yeah.
He's gonna hang out with us for one more year, so he's gonna finish out the spring, and then
Oh, great. That's
um,
great.
he'll get
So
some.
you oversee recruiting stuff for beach, correct?
Yeah.
So I want to ask you a question because I know there is, I know inevitably there will be people listening that are interested in pursuing this collegiately. If you could give one piece of advice to parents, potential recruiting athletes, and I'm going to go broad here, not just beach volleyball or indoor volleyball, but any collegiate sport, what would the piece of advice from you, a collegiate coach, and with the experiences that you've had so far, what would that be for parents and their children, their athletes that are trying to play at that next level?
Um, ooh,
That's a
it's hard.
loaded it's a loaded question. That's a
Yeah,
big
I
one.
also think people. I was talking with Wayne Hawley about this the other day. By the other day, I mean probably 6 months ago. But
Okay.
either way, right? It's like 90% of what we hear about recruiting comes from college coaches, and
Mm,
10% comes from athletes. And I'm pretty sure that it requires information from both.
yeah.
I would say so. I guess in the most hypocritical fashion, I'll try to express what I think is important.
Yes.
I think that titles are not super important.
Mhm.
And I'll be the first to admit I did not know what Southeastern Louisiana University was.
Okay.
Um, I'd met Jeremy in Gulf Shores in 2022, maybe.
Okay.
And he said, "Hey, I'd like to bring my team out." And I read the name on his T-shirt, and I said, "Yeah, I'm sure that'll be a win." You know, I chalked it up to Coastal, right? This one was at Coastal Carolina, and so
Yeah.
booked him for a tournament. I kind of forgot about it. Went to the Pairs Championship last fall, and they actually beat Kaylee Cruz, who's now at Florida State. But
Yeah.
I've known Kaylee since she was 15 or 16, which means I've known Roger and Brian since for
Oh,
eight
that's
years
awesome.
or so. They're family to me, and so
Yeah.
um, they beat the Southeastern Louisiana pair beat them in the
Okay.
championship, and I remember being like, "Oh God, what did I do?" Like, I
Yeah. Yeah.
scheduled this team, I didn't know anything about them, and so I'll be the first to admit Southeastern Louisiana isn't the sexiest name
Yeah.
on the beach volleyball list, but I do think that there's neither was Stetson, right? Like
Mhm.
if you're not in beach volleyball
Mhm.
and you're not in baseball, right? Do you know Stetson University?
Yeah.
Probably not. Is going to DeLand every kid's dream school? Probably
Right.
not. But now they're doing something in beach volleyball, right? The
Right.
University of North Florida. I think Doug's done a great job there, and obviously I got to learn a lot about its growth process from Steve Loswick, who
Right.
started the beach program there. Um, these aren't necessarily the big names, but they provide some of the most amazing experiences,
Mhm.
and that's all I'm trying to do, right? I want to provide an incredible experience to our student athletes, and that's going to involve winning some volleyball games. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
It's also going to provide an opportunity to go see things you never thought you'd see, meet people you never thought you'd get to meet,
Yes.
and
Yes.
do some things that maybe you never thought were going to be in your life plan. Which
Yeah.
for me is every day, right? I didn't plan on any of this, didn't
Yeah.
see any of this coming,
Yeah.
and so the advice would be is try to get away from the name and
Right.
try to figure out what the substance of what you're going to be doing is, and figure out what's important to you, which is hard because
Yeah.
still to this day, I'm not sure I know what's important to me. I got some guesses. Um,
Well, I think though, if you look at everything that you've just talked about kind of in a nutshell, I feel like you have, like, you've learned some valuable stuff along the way, you know?
yeah, I've definitely learned some valuable things. I don't know if I don't know if I'm a final product yet. I'm still grappling with the work life balance, but in the for the other things, right? Like one of my good friends, Zach Gale, who's now the compliance officer at Georgia State.
Mhm.
He was my roommate at Coastal Carolina. He's getting married on April 13th.
Okay.
So if you're good at beach volleyball schedules, you'll know that we're playing on April
April
13th.
13th, yeah.
It's guarantee. I actually know where I'm going to be. I'm going to be at LSU on
Yeah.
April 12th and
Yep.
13th.
Yeah.
And over the last week or so, it's been a real like back and forth of, do I try to figure it out, right?
Yeah.
Do I figure something out? Do I try to make it work, or do I don't want to let my team down, right?
Yeah.
But also he's going to get married once,
Yeah. Yeah.
and he's a really good friend, and I know he's not going to blame me if I'm not there.
Right.
But that doesn't mean I don't want to be there.
But it's trying to figure out, I understand what you're saying. It's trying to figure out that balance in everything that you do, and knowing that, again, we would just circle right back to the beginning where we said something about the should. I should have done that. I mean, you just make the best decision that you can in the time that you're in, you
Yeah.
know?
It's very hard, right? And
Mhm.
it's probably something that a lot of coaches go through and a lot of coaches don't. I would say there's two things that college coaches are pretty bad about talking about. And they're pretty bad about talking about the things they should have done that didn't include their job. Uh,
Oh, wow.
I would say we have a fierce loyalty to our team, to our
Yeah.
athletes. And
Yeah.
that's a good thing, right? That's a great thing. But oftentimes we're going to do it at the expense of our
Of
own life.
something in your own personal life. Yeah.
I mean, Jeremy's sacrificed for the better part of 5 years now.
Mhm.
And, I'm sure there are things that he's like, man, I wish I would have done something differently, right? The should have
Mhm.
talked about. So we're pretty bad about admitting those things, right? We always
Mhm.
say, well, it's for the team, right? It's for the girls, it's for our
Mhm.
student athletes, right? And that's awesome. That's
Yeah.
great. Um, but also like something's got to give somewhere, right?
Right, right.
The
You
other
just
thing
have
we're
to
bad
figure
about
that
talking
out.
about, yeah, the other thing we're bad about talking about is money and like work experience. Um,
Okay.
I would say that you would be hard pressed. I'm not saying anybody needs to like say that their job experience at a place was poor,
Mhm.
right? But most coaches, especially young coaches, are not going to tell you what their work experience was like.
For sure.
And that I think is the dangerous precedent to get into. Uh,
Yeah.
right? You don't have to trash somebody. You have to be like, man, I hated working for Dawn. She's so mean and the worst. Right? But you can express, hey, listen, she's very particular about whatever travel or
Right,
recruiting, right? And sometimes she's going to speak to you like this,
right.
and you have to know those things in order to be okay with what you're getting yourself into.
Right. Yeah,
Uh,
and understanding exactly. Understanding what the program is as a whole, and that's part of it.
yeah,
That's a big part of it.
and
Um,
then the money piece,
yeah,
hey,
yeah.
I make, right now I make $45,000 a year, which
Mhm.
is not going to show up on any state website. When I was at Coastal, I made 25,000, and
Mhm.
those are just the facts, right? Those are numbers. You got to make your own assessment, your own valuation, and people always say comparison is the thief of all
Thief
joy.
of all joy, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
but it's also important to know that you're going to have to carry a second job
Yeah.
before you accept a position.
Yeah.
And so, luckily I'm in a position now where I don't have to do that.
That's great.
But we don't talk about those things, right? We don't do a great job uh, being honest about where we're at and what's happening.
Understand, and I think that probably puts stress a lot more added stress, more so than even just taking care of your roster, you
Yeah,
know? I
yeah.
mean, there's
I mean,
so much before we hit the record, you were talking about, like, there were different things going on throughout your day in the last few days of stuff that you had to handle with your student athletes that it's outside of the scope of what we would list as, "This is what a coach's duties are, and this is what their details are." There's so much more that goes into it. I think that, um, yeah, that parents don't consider. Um, I know I had a parent ask me the other day, "Oh, how did you know that this is where your daughter how did she know this is where she wanted to go? How did this one know she's" I said, "Well, you just have to look and educate yourself the best and find the connection." And again, it doesn't matter. I love that you said the label, the name, that
yeah,
it's not all cut and dry. The idea is to pursue your passion, and I read something on social media earlier today about the idea is not D1, D2, D3, NAIA, JUCO. It's about getting to pursue your passion for the next 4 years and
yeah,
being able to have that opportunity. So, finding how that fits within the right place is really that's what's gonna make you successful in whatever you do, and even when you're out of college too. So
yeah. I do think there's a lot of also, just since I get the platform now, and I'm going to say it anyway.
okay.
I think there's a lot of like bashing of the transfer portal
Okay.
nowadays, right? People always say, "Oh, there's no loyalty, there's no responsibility anymore," right?
Yeah.
Um, I don't know about you, Don, right? But when I was 16 years old,
I know
okay,
what
the
you're gonna say.
last thing I
Yeah.
knew was what I was going to do at 18, let
Yeah.
alone 20, let
Yes.
alone 22. And as human beings, I think we're allowed to change. How many people change their major in college, right? Isn't that
Ah,
like the first thing
yeah.
that somebody says to you is like, "Oh, I wanted to major in this." "Oh, well, you're going to change before you graduate."
Yeah.
Right? And that might be true. It still feels condescending, right? When somebody says
Right.
it.
When it's coming at you, you're like,
Yeah,
"What?"
yeah,
Yeah.
just let me believe what I want to believe. Okay. Let me think that I've got it all figured
Yeah.
out before
Right.
high
Right.
school.
Right.
But then to assume that a 16-year-old is going to have flawless decision making on what they want out of the
Mhm.
next 6 years of their life
Mhm.
feels pretty naive to me. It would be great if they did. I would hope that all student athletes spend as much time thinking about their decision. I mean, I'm sure you two girls have spent countless hours
Yeah.
focusing on what they are finding important and finding value in their recruiting process, right?
Yeah.
And that's awesome. I think,
But I will also tell you, I told both of them, nothing is permanent. Nothing is permanent, and that can go across the board in many different directions. You could be let go, or you could decide, "Hey, this isn't what I thought it was when I was 16 or 17 or 18." So you're
yeah,
not you're not s no one is ever stuck. I think it's the discomfort of moving out of that and making that decision that we get stuck in, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, we get stuck in the stigma, right? "Oh, if I go in the
Mhm.
transfer portal, will anybody take me? Will I
Mhm.
be able to play as high?" Whatever, right? And it's I don't know, there's always that saying, there's people are in your life for a season or reason or the rest of time or something along those lines,
Mhm.
and that we can say that about friends, right? I have a childhood best friend who, got married the other day, right? And I saw the wedding and I didn't get an invite,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
We were in each other's life for that time.
Yeah.
Really important at that time that we had each other.
Yes.
But now, right, things are different. Life's
Yeah.
different. That's okay, and that's not a bad thing.
It just is.
It's like picking up a book, reading 60% of it, and deciding you don't wanna read it anymore.
Yeah.
It's almost just as valuable to put that book down as it is to have read the first 60% of it.
Right.
And there's nothing to be, I think really consider why you're going somewhere. I'm somebody that's moved to run away from things before, right? I've
Uh-huh.
done things to because I thought, "Oh, this next thing will bring me happiness," right?
Mm. Mhm.
I've done that, and, I have to really think about why I'm leaving. What is gonna change? What's gonna be different?
Yeah.
And I think that's the same thing when transferring, right? What's gonna change? What's gonna truly be different? But
Yeah.
you take that eval and you go to yourself and you go, "No, I actually do want something different out of my life." Then
Yeah.
do it, and that's okay, and if anybody says it's not, guess what? They're not living your life, so,
Right. Right.
yeah,
Had
it's
that
gonna be hard.
conversation. I've had that conversation numerous times, numerous times. It's hard to get to that point where you can accept that, I think, and
Yeah,
understand that, like, my decisions are it's really truly about what I feel is my drive and what my purpose is, and I feel like this is where I'm headed. But, I mean, I wager to bet people will look at the things that you decided to do to work to chase a dream and a goal that you had and be like, "He's crazy. Like, that's nutso." But it
yeah.
wasn't about them, it was about you. So, yeah, you stay the course.
No, do what makes you happy in the moment
Yeah,
and, don't disregard what other people think and feel. I'm not gonna say that conversation with your coach isn't gonna be hard,
right.
right? Guess what? The conversation with a spouse when, something's not working out is gonna be hard. You're married, I'm not. Clearly, I've had enough hard conversations where they don't work out. You've probably had a few hard conversations where they do work out.
Yeah, yeah, but you're right. It applies beyond just the sport and just the thought of recruiting and what you're doing now. Yeah, it applies for the rest of your life,
Yeah.
and across the board for everything, everything. I have kind of an interesting question for you here. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Um, that would be foolish of me to even speculate on because where was I 5 years ago? 5 years ago, I was working at Beverly Hills Sports Council.
Yeah, that's right. I
Right.
was gonna say that
So,
was prior to Domino's and U-Haul and
yeah,
yeah.
um, I,
Okay.
our team will always ask, right? Or people will always ask, what do you see your lineup as being? And I
Yeah,
go, I don't know our lineup until February 23rd, which is the first day that we're going to play this year.
yeah.
Like, and guess what? It's probably going to change between February 23rd and April 20th
Yeah,
when the
yeah,
season ends.
between the beginning and the end of the season
Yeah.
as it always does, yeah,
It's gonna
absolutely.
change, and
Yeah,
so I've done too many years of guessing what our lineup's gonna be, I've done too many years of guessing what our record's gonna be,
mhm,
um, I've done a lot of the guessing, and it has never worked out, I've never
mm.
been right, and so I hesitate to tell you where I'm gonna be in 5 years for fear of it being wrong.
I get it. Perfect.
Yeah,
Perfect answer.
I'll say I
And
hope whatever it is, I hope that I'm doing something to make a positive impact on other people's lives, because that's what I find a real passion for. I love favorite moment of the year was getting to hang out with Frankie Harrison and Katie Zimmerman.
okay,
So Katie Zimmerman coaches at Wichita State now, and
okay,
Frankie Harrison coaches at Columbia University in New York.
yes,
Um, and they were both beach players on the 2017 South Carolina Gamecocks beach roster.
okay,
And so I got to know them a lot when Frankie and I are the same age. And so we spent a lot of time together in college. And then KZ was a grad student. She played 4 years at Wichita State before
Mhm.
that, and then came and played some beach for us. And um, two of the dopest human beings who have done some of the most amazing things. KZ is a mom, soon to be mom of two.
Okay.
She's pregnant with another one. And Frankie was um, graduated in COVID, went and played indoor at Duke after her graduation from beach, is the most spontaneous would be a good word for her, but also like caring human being. I've never met somebody that seems so genuinely interested in what's going on in your life.
Yeah.
Um, and I love seeing where she's at now and where KZ's at now, and being a part of that and knowing like, oh, I was a part of that for a little while.
Yeah.
Right. I saw Alex, right? Alex Kleiman. I saw her shortly after she had her baby.
Mhm.
Um, and she was wearing her gold medal at an AVP event. And I was like, it was the
Oh,
shortest interaction, right? It was a little high. But it was so cool to know that like, oh, I've been around that, right? I've been a part of
yes.
your life in the world's smallest way, right?
Yeah, but
Smallest way, but
but it's a part of the process, and you're just as much a part of their process as they are, as vice versa,
yeah.
basically.
So that's where I find a lot of value. So in 5 years from now, I hope I'm doing that, whether it be at a high school or a college, whether it be coaching beach volleyball or
Yeah.
teaching history or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I'd say right now, I really hope that it's still coaching beach volleyball, and I hope maybe even to dare to say that it's at Southeastern Louisiana. I think it'd be really great.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
but
If you I probably can guess this, but if you had to name one person in your life that's been an influential person kind of in shaping your path, who do
uh,
you think that'd be?
yeah, it was probably going to change a lot, right? It's going to be different based on every season of my life. Um, Coach Collin Griffin, my baseball coach at Jesuit. Um,
Okay.
so I swore for years that I would never coach collegiately, and then, well, I swore I'd never coach, period. And then,
You said that
yeah, I said
initially
that.
about
My
you.
dad was like, "Hey, I think you're going to coach," and I said, "No, that's stupid." And so my first summer out of high school, I was working at a landscaping firm. Uh, and I happened to swing by one of my high school team's summer games because
Mhm.
I lived by the high school and it was easy to swing by. And, I missed baseball a little bit. I was having summer was fun, but cutting grass wasn't exactly my favorite
Yeah,
activity.
it's not your jam. Yeah, I gotcha.
Um, and I get down there and, I'm in shorts and a t-shirt, one of my old baseball t-shirts. And our JV coach is, hitting fly balls. And he goes, "Wilson, Burdick couldn't make it today. Do you mind sitting in the dugout?" And I said, "Sure." So I sat in the dugout, and Coach Griff comes by and he goes, "Hey, I don't think Burdick's going to make much this summer. Do you want to just be the assistant coach?" And I said, "I
Oh,
don't know if I can do that." And he goes, "I'll pay you $1,000."
oh,
I said, "Sold."
sold.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah. So he gave me my first opportunity. He also gave me a little known fact, right? I'm not great at the sport of baseball. My
But
high
you
school,
enjoyed it.
yeah, I got cut for 3 years, Don.
Oh.
So my freshman year, Tim Massey calls me in, goes, "Hey, don't have room for you."
Oh,
Year
no.
2 calls
Oh,
me
no.
in, goes, "Hey, we don't have room for you. We need somebody who plays a few more positions."
Okay.
I was like, "All right." So then I start working on playing another position and hitting in the cage. And my 3rd year, Coach Griffin gets there.
Mhm.
It's his first year, and I pulled my hamstring in tryouts. And so
Oh,
he goes, "Hey, I think you do some nice things, but just don't have room for you." And so going into my senior year of high school, right, I'm 0 for 3 on the sport
okay.
that I love, on the sport that I like truly had a passion for.
Yeah.
Um, and I spent so after all my junior year, after games, one of my best friends was like the star shortstop for the baseball team. And I would convince him to come into the batting cage with me after he played. So he'd play a whole game.
And
We'd go to
then
the batting
okay.
cage and he'd throw BP to me so and he'd help me get a little bit better.
Okay.
Chris Arpan, still one of my best friends. And so anyway, going into my senior year, there was winter workouts, and I showed up to every winter workout, right? Because I was just trying to, I just
Trying.
wanted to make the
Make
team.
it
Gosh
gonna
darn it.
do it. I just wanna make the team.
Just let me be on the team. And the last winter workout of the year, Coach Griff pulls me aside and he goes, um, "Hey, I know it doesn't, you know, I know it's not going to make up for anything, but you're the first kid on the team this year. And he
Oh,
really appreciated that I'd worked hard, and that meant a
yeah,
lot to me, right?
yeah.
That was kind of the first time that somebody had said like, "Hey,
I
I
see you.
appreciate the fact that you worked hard,"
Yeah,
right? And that was kind of the first time that I was like, "Oh, I can get by with just outworking somebody. Like I can just try
yeah,
to work harder than
yeah.
anybody else." And that was probably the first thing that really set me off on even getting into baseball as a
Mhm.
job. When I worked at Beverly Hills Sports Council, I had cold called the office, and they said, "Hey, you can leave a message with any of these numbers." And I saw a guy that was the intern there, and um, his name is Danny Horowitz, and he happens to own the company now. And so I
Okay.
left a voicemail, and I may or may not have fudged some information on that voicemail, and but he called me back, and then I worked harder than ever for that company and tried to be really good for him. And
Yeah,
I hope it showed.
yeah.
I hope when they think about their favorite intern, they think about Collin Wilson. But
Right. Well,
probably forgotten me since then. So
well, I think it's awesome. So, I before we hit the record, I had asked you, normally I send out questions, and for some reason my questions didn't get attached to the thing. So I'm totally putting you on the spot with these rapid fire questions. I love to wrap up the podcast with, I mean, we get to know a lot about you when you're talking about your story, obviously. But I just think it's kind of a nice way to wrap it up, and it's fun, lighthearted.
yeah,
So, are you up for it? Rapid
yeah,
fire questions?
let's do it. And I talked a lot already, so maybe we'll cover some things again. So I appreciate you also letting me just ramble.
It's
But
okay. It's all right. I think there's stuff that's valuable to you, valuable to people that will hear it. There
yeah,
you
this is
go.
way cheaper than therapy, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
Amen. Amen. All right. Question number one. What is your go-to pastime?
My go-to pastime.
What do you like to do? That's your go-to when you're not coaching, when you're not training for a marathon, when you're not
Yeah,
traveling.
big. I love playing the guitar.
Okay.
So I have a couple actually right over to my side here, and so I love to pull it out and just play a couple of songs. I only know a few things. I know plenty of notes and chords, but there's a few songs that I'll play on repeat, and
Perfect.
those are fun for me.
Guitar, right.
Yeah.
What story do you tell the most?
What story do I tell the most? I guess it's probably the walking up to Alex and April story.
Oh,
Like that's
that's a good one.
Yeah, I think it just comes up the most, right? Because it's like I can mix it into recruiting, I can mix it into the pod, like
Yeah.
there's an opportunity. But there's plenty of different student athlete stories that I'll tell. There's one right now that I tell about this thing that happened when I first got to campus that was very funny. So, but probably the April and Alex story. That's probably my
That's a good one.
yeah.
Um,
Sounds cool for sure.
but but it was cool. That does just sound cool. It was cool. Would you ever consider appearing on a reality show?
I think it would depend on the reality show, but I do also really love to cook.
Oh,
Um,
wow. You like
yeah.
Master Chef or, what's that baking show that has amateurs on it?
Oh,
Oh,
I'm
it's
not
called
sure.
Nailed It.
Nailed it.
Yeah, have you ever seen that?
I haven't seen Nailed It, but I've definitely seen MasterChef or like Chopped, right? Those are right
Yes.
up my
Yeah,
alley. In fact,
yeah.
so when I was that day, January 12th, 2021,
Gosh,
we-
it's amazing to me, like, of the guests that I have had, very specific people remember the dates of these things, the dates, the years, the day of the week, the time of the day. I mean,
yeah,
for me, that is super, super insightful.
yeah, they're called flashbulb moments. So
Yeah,
there's interesting. There's actually a group that studies these. Here will be a tangent of mine, but so like
okay.
9/11 is a big flashbulb moment.
Yeah,
One of the most interesting things about them is everybody can remember where they were,
yeah,
right? That moment, right? This is when I saw the planes hit the towers.
yeah.
But what's really interesting is that they'll interview you. So they'll interview people like up to the week after the event happens. They'll say, "Hey,
Mhm.
where were you? What did you do?" And you'll tell them the story of the day of. And then 5 years later, they'll interview you again, and they'll say, "Where were you? What did you do after?" And they'll do it 10 years, and they'll do it 15, and whatever. They'll do it for every so odd, so forth.
Yeah,
What'll inevitably happen is they'll tell a story 2 or 3 days after the event happens. They'll tell a pretty similar story 5 years after. 10 years after, the story will be different.
right.
When confronted about it, like they'll say, "Oh, I went into the kitchen," and whatever. 2 days after it happened, they actually went outside, right? And they
Okay.
will swear that whatever they said before was wrong,
Oh,
and whatever they're
wow.
saying today was right because they remember it happened that way.
Wow.
And so, who knows? I could be wrong what day it was. I do think there's a text message on my phone that would corroborate my story, but
Okay.
um, so anyway, yeah.
Well,
I don't remember the question. I'm gonna be honest.
yeah. So it's a reality show. We
Yeah.
started
Oh,
with
yeah, sure.
cooking.
Yeah, yeah. So cooking, right? Master Chef, Chopped,
Cooking.
along those lines.
Perfect.
But my dream job or my jobs that I was gonna take when I thought about quitting coaching was either flight attendant or chef.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
those are my two kind of go-tos. Which, ironically enough, if you look up the salaries for those two jobs, they're very close to coaching beach volleyball.
It's
So
it's all right there in the same line.
it's all. It just says poor, right? That's
Or
all
just
right
as
there.
they're here.
Yeah, you're not making enough money to really be taxed. Congratulations.
All right, I got another one for you. Have you ever worn socks with your sandals?
Not, I mean, maybe like out to the car or something random on a cold day, but I don't really own sandals, right? I'm a flip flops only kind of guy. Maybe I
See,
should get a
that's
pair of
right.
Crocs.
I have seen you in the depths of winter, and when I say the depths of winter, I'm talking like it's 40 degrees or something, and I think 40
Um,
degrees is too cold to be wearing flip-flops. Sorry, everybody.
that day at Hayden, that day at Hayden Beach,
Yeah,
yeah, that
yes!
was cold. That was that was the
I
coldest.
mean,
Uh,
what? Like,
yeah,
cover those toes.
it's still that's still. You want to tell a story that I probably get told the most, is I probably get told about that clinic at Hayden because it was me and Terry.
Uh-huh.
Inevitably, I'll run into somebody and they'll go, "I've remembered you ever since you ran that freezing clinic at Hayden Beach." Um,
For people that don't know, they were outside doing a clinic, a beach volleyball clinic at a local, one of our local clubs in Nashville, and what was the high temperature? It was something silly.
it's cold. It's cold. That's all I remember. And
I mean
you know what's so funny about this though is I've gone to Hayden, been to Hayden 3 or 4 times now.
mhm.
And so I did freezing cold with Terry. I did the hot day during Elite Week,
Yeah.
whatever, a couple of years ago, and that wasn't too bad. That was pretty okay. Then I went back with Travis LeBlanc last May from Austin P,
Yes.
and it dumped rain.
Ugh.
I mean, I wrung out my t-shirt and shorts
Ugh.
after that day. So I've had pretty bad weather at Hayden every time I
You
go.
it's just
Um,
like, if it's gonna happen there for you,
yeah.
weather-wise.
Well,
That's
luckily,
all.
I really love Robin and John and
Yes.
wouldn't trade weekends at their house for the world.
That's great.
So, so
Perfect.
keep going. And Nashville's cool, but
Well, man, I have loved getting to know you better and learning a little bit more about your process, and I just wanna leave it with the fact that everything that you've done has been for a reason. And I think that, I mean, yeah, I mean, for you to get to where you are, everything had to have happened that way. So I think you can't look back. It's for anybody that's listening that could go, oh, I regret doing this or regret doing that. It's the should things where you don't really know. I should have hit that high line, or I should have known they were going to do this. Well, you do the best thing that you can do in the time that you do it. But without all those steps and all those other things, you would not have been to the point where you're at. So
yeah,
bravo
life's
to
pretty
you.
cool right now, and so I feel pretty lucky.
Yeah.
I also did kind of mean to. I wanted to segue and I forgot because I got sidetracked again. But you asked me about influential people. Uh,
Yes. Oh, right.
I do want to also, among the Maritzas and the Noel Rooks and Janice Harris and all the people that have given me a shot, I also owe a tremendous amount to Steve Grotowski,
Yeah.
to the FAU. Right, him and I got to know each other my first summer at Coastal. We did 13 clinics together over the summer,
That's so
which is pretty
many.
impressive because there aren't 13 weeks in the summer.
Yeah. You're
Lazy, you don't know. We were doing multiple days together in
right.
the same week, and we didn't plan it. We didn't know we were going to be there together. We would show up, and inevitably, it would be me and him. Uh,
Yeah.
we called ourselves the Nearly Flightless Birds whenever we did uh, a clinic together because
Okay.
the Coastal Carolina Chanticleer is a rooster, and
Okay.
FAU are the
Is it an
burrowing
owl?
owl. Yeah, it's burrowing owl. It's not even a and so we would call ourselves the Nearly Flightless Birds, and
That's
that was
perfect.
so. Not only did I get to develop this really great friendship with him, but
Mhm.
I've also watched him go through some pretty hard stuff, losing his
Mhm.
wife Capri, and I haven't seen many people do it with quite as much strength and grace as he has.
Totally.
I
Totally
also
agree.
have gotten to watch him be one of the most amazing dads,
Mhm.
and he's so honest
Yeah.
with his kids, and I think that that's I got really inspired by David Fisher at UNC Wilmington. If you listen to Coaches on the Beach, you'll
Oh, right. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, that's such an amazing conversation. I'm truly inspired by the way Steve parents and coaches and is a human being, and
Yeah.
that honesty is something that when I think about telling a little white lie to my team, I think about him and I go, he would just probably be honest, and that's
Yeah.
going to be really valuable. And so then I'll decide to do that, and I just have a
Oh,
lot of love and respect for Steve, and
yeah.
it wouldn't feel right to do this and share my soul goals
Yeah.
um, without getting to shout him out because I
Yeah,
really
no, I totally can see that, and I totally agree with you. And also you said, I don't wanna let you go before I say this one too. You have a podcast that you started up with, what's Michael's last name?
Michael Hobson, the
Michael
head beach
Hobson.
coach at University of Louisiana Monroe. Yeah,
Yes.
all
So
his
you and
idea.
Michael.
It's all
Well,
his idea. He asked me, he goes, "Hey, I want to start a podcast. Would you do it with me?" I said, "Yeah, what do I have to do?" And he said, "I'll do all the editing, I'll do all the recording. You just have to hop on and speak." And so,
fun.
yeah, he's the best. He's the brains behind the operation. He's the design guy. He makes everything happen. He edits it all. So yeah, that guy
Well,
does all
good.
the hard work. I just get to hop on and talk to my friends for an hour.
That's awesome, and it's called Coaches on the Beach. So
Which is
each episode you have a different coach. Has Steve Grotowski been on there for you with you guys?
No, we snuck his assistant Christy Tekovec on
Ah,
first. And Christy actually is, I think, our most listened to episode. She shares a really powerful story, powerful testimony of her own experience playing. She played at FAU,
yeah.
and then obviously began coaching and was very close with Stephen Capri, or is very close with Stephen Capri. And so
Yes.
it was a very valuable episode. Steve's going to come on. We just got to, raising two kids and running a program.
It's a
It,
lot.
yeah, it takes a fair amount of time out of them. So
Yes.
I think I gotta like probably wrestle him down and put him in a
Yeah.
chair for an hour and talk to him. So I'll have
Yeah.
to wait till I'm in person. It's a lot easier to do those things.
I agree, for
But
sure.
well, thank you so much, Don, for having me on and for letting me
Absolutely.
ramble for much too long.
No, it's all great. I appreciate your openness and I appreciate your vulnerability. I think that, being that way and being able to expand and open yourself up to let other people know kind of your process is a really great piece, a great piece for others to hear, but it's also great for you too. There's a piece of healing that happens when you do that for yourself. So again, pat yourself on
cheaper
the
than,
back.
cheaper
Okay.
than therapy. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
you got it. Hey, my bill will be in the mail.
Perfect.
No, it won't. No, it won't. All right. Well, I hope you have a great rest of your week. A good fall volleyball season, this indoor stuff that's going on with you, and
Yeah,
a good,
and beach. You can
yeah,
catch us at
beach. Burning the candle at both ends, man. Get some sleep when you can. Enjoy your marathon training
all right.
and play your
Thanks, Don.
guitar when you have a chance.
Will do.
All right. Good to see you.